Hi, this is Robin Murray.
And I'm Joe Human.
And we're talking about Dogs and Ecotrauma, the making of a monster in White God. After adopting several rescue dogs, all of whom suffered abuse and neglect, it comes as no surprise to us that both human and non-human animals may suffer the consequences of ecotrauma. As part of human society, dogs may also be traumatized by a toxic environment. As cultural critic David R. Shumway asserts, pets ought to be understood as elements of a healthy human society. According to Shumway, if humans have typically lived in a mixed community with animals, then our definition of society should be expanded to reflect the fact that not all of the subjects to whom we relate are human. As noted eco-critic Anil Nareen suggests, a traumatized earth begets traumatized people. But a traumatized earth may also negatively affect other species. Films highlighting dogfighting reveal much about the complex connections between humans and their dogs. In this presentation, we argue that by exposing the abuse dogs endure during cruel training for and violent assaults in the dogfight ring, the fictional film White God powerfully demonstrates the repercussions of mistreatment in a toxic environment, ecotrauma. But it also offers a solution: love. White God suggests a traumatized earth may also traumatize the pets we love, especially in an urban setting. The opening of White God highlights the consequences of such environmental trauma. A long shot reveals a starkly empty, silent Budapest street where 13-year-old Lily rides her bike across a deserted bridge. The music is quiet as she passes an abandoned car and bus, suggesting a forced escape for their passengers. Cutting to a city street as she continues to bike, an enormous pack of dogs runs up behind and past her, as if responding to the trumpet in her backpack. This opening scene ends with a flashback to Lily playing with her dog Hagen to underpin the dramatic change trauma has produced in this once happy house pet. When her mother leaves for 3 months to Australia, Lily and Hagen's lives are disrupted when they are forced to move in with Lily's meat inspector father Daniel, who lives in a small and insular apartment building. In this traumatic ecology, a neighbor reports illegal mixed breed ownership to authorities, claiming Hagen bit her. Canine officers warn Lily and her father they must pay a heavy state tax and register the mixed breed or lose him. Forced to sleep in a closed bathroom, Hagen howls. Only Lily's trumpet can calm him. When Lily sneaks Hagen into her band rehearsal and disturbs the practice, her director throws them out, and in retaliation, Lily's father casts Hagen out of their car in the middle of a crowded avenue and drives off. His actions catalyze the series of traumatic experiences that nearly condemn Hagen to death. Ultimately, White God illustrates the similarities between humans and dogs. Both species respond positively to love and negatively to cruelty. In White God, the hope is that love may counter the environmental trauma humanity creates. Most recognize how dramatically the emotional and physical responses of dogs parallel those of humans in domestic settings. Pet ownership statistics begin to reveal the affiliation humans shares with dogs. Dogs continue to be the most popular pet in U.S. homes. According to the American Veterinary Medical Association, in 2012, approximately 36.5% of U.S. households included at least one dog, down less than a percentage from 37.2% in 2007. Cat ownership, on the other hand, decreased from 32.4% to 30.4% in 2012. These statistics provide evidence for Carrie Weil's claim that anthropologists have promoted a model of coevolution that views domestication as a symbiotic and dynamic relationship between humans and animals, independent of either forethought or conscious intent, and that potentially ascribes agency to both. This close affiliation between humans and their dogs may also promote anthropomorphic responses that benefit both species. Recent work in psychology, biology, and science history demonstrates that anthropomorphism may serve practical, psychological, and evolutionary purposes. As Mark Beckhoff asserts in Animal Passions and Beastly Virtues, hard data do not tell the only story, and in my view, it is perfectly okay to be carefully anthropomorphic. In fact, Beckhoff explains, by being anthropomorphic, we can more readily understand and explain the emotions or feelings of other animals. Beckhoff and bioethicist Jessica Pierce declare, there's nothing unscientific about using the same terms to refer to animals and humans, particularly when we're arguing the same phenomenon is present across species. And Alexandra Horowitz and Beckhoff suggest it may illustrate features of responsiveness that make early infant caretaker relationships develop. It may also help predict animal behavior. And it may advance animal rights arguments and, as Lorraine Dostin and Greg Mittman declare, elucidate the performance of being human by animals and being animal by humans, and the transformative processes that make thinking with animals possible. From an organismic ecology perspective, anthropomorphism that highlights humans as animals may also provide a way to preserve a biotic community, a land ethic in which all parts of the land are of equal value. Organismic ecologist Aldo Leopold applied human ethics to the natural world, constructing his land ethic manifesto. This program, outlined in Leopold's Sand County Almanac, encouraged an ecologically centered view of the land as a biotic pyramid in which humans were a part, a principle that rests on the belief that humans are simply members of a community of living things who interact cooperatively and with equal ethical value. One species, humans or other sentient beings, is not constructed as a conqueror, but as a group of biotic citizens. Such interconnectedness lines up with Donna Haraway's notion of companion species. Instead of only humanity benefiting from relationships with their pets, Haraway suggests that we should move toward, quote, an ongoing becoming with. Such an approach encourages species interdependence rather than power structures that inevitably place humans at the top. White God demonstrates what might happen if that paradigm was perpetuated and the biotic pyramid was broken. Ultimately, though, it also offers an alternative approach that, quote, knots companion and species together instead, as Haraway would say. White God showcases how the connections between humans and dogs can torture and nurture both species. Ultimately, though, it offers a way to build relationships based on Haraway's companion species ideal instead of either pampering or torture. The opening title quotation from Rainer Maria Rilke establishes the primary argument of the horror drama White God. Quote, everything terrible is something that needs our love. So, to support its claim, however, White God demonstrates how horrific mistreatment may also create the terrible, turning a house pet into a feral, hyper-intelligent, revolutionary menace. Set in an alternative Budapest, the film's conflicts begin when Hungary sets a severe tax on those who own mixed-breed dogs, so pedigree and purebreds will be favored. To avoid the tax, mixed-breed owners dump them on the streets or in overcrowded animal shelters. The film's production notes argue the film serves as a stark, beautiful metaphor for the political and cultural tensions sweeping contemporary Europe. But its focus on one mixed-breed dog's responses to a lifeless urban environment and the hostile situations he experiences after abandonment by his young owner's cruel father also suggests an expanded view of ecotrauma may be warranted. In White God, mixed-breed Hagen battles urban ecological catastrophes and ecotrauma that transform him from loving pet to vengeance-seeking monster. For Noreen, ecotrauma is a product of the ecological catastrophes that confront us directly as experiences or indirectly as images circulating in the media. Noreen suggests these events tend to confound us and even paralyze us politically and psychologically. Psychologist Tina Amarak argues that ideally human experiences lives that are interconnected with others and the natural world. But Amarak suggests the experience of interconnectedness contains paradox. For we sense not just the profound beauty of life, but also the pandemic of human violence and the existential anxiety that it causes. Our responses to the ecotrauma this dilemma causes may be violent. Amarok declares and include separation ideologies and practices like war, religious fanaticism, racism, and sexism, psychological defense mechanisms, denial, disassociation, psychic numbing, and an array of debilitating behaviors and responses that bear the signature of trauma, ranging from depression, anxiety, and addictive lifestyles to violence towards self, others, and nature.
White God illustrates how a domesticated dog reacts with similar violence when facing ecotrauma and urban ecological catastrophes associated with it. White God acknowledges and illustrates in detail the loving home Hagen must leave when Lily is forced to live with her father for 3 months. Before dropping Lily off at the slaughterhouse where Dad works inspected freshly slaughtered beef, Lily and her family share a picnic. Hagen seems joyful as he plays what New York Times reviewer Manhola Dargis calls a quietly portentous game of tug-of-war with Lily. His tail wags as he adeptly catches and retrieves the toy, and the close relationship between the two continues even in Lily's father's cramped apartment, where she attempts to feed Hagen meat scraps from the table. Los Angeles reviewer Robert Abel calls Hagen her true bestie, a lovable reddish-brown mutt. Despite Dad's refusal to allow Hagen to sleep in Lily's room, she preserves their bond by soothing Hagen with her trumpet in the bathroom where he's trapped. White God also shows the horrific conditions and experiences Hagen faces in the streets of Budapest. Although Renee Rodriguez of the Miami Herald suggests the first half of the film plays like a spin-off of Babe, Pig in the City, or a Disney movie about a lost pet fending for itself, it also illustrates how Hagen's former relationship with Lily transfers to other species. He sleeps under a bridge and searches for food and water, but he also seeks community, connecting with other dogs around the city. With a small canine companion, Hagen discovers a pack of dogs in a wet, empty lot. As a group, their intelligence seems to grow. Hagen and his companion dog escape from a cleaver-wielding butcher, tired of mongrels hanging around his shop. When animal control arrives, Hagen leads the dog catchers away from the lot so the other dogs can escape. Hagen and his pack adopt behaviors. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Professors Ferdosian and Merskin suggest parallel those of humans, including avoidance behaviors. When they evade the dog catchers who not only plan to force them into kennels at a crowded dog pound, but also seek to euthanize them as they routinely do in American animal shelters, according to documentaries including One Nation Under Dog, City of Dogs, and Out of the Pit. Hagen's newfound freedom turns into a vengeful battle when a homeless man saves him from the officials but sells him to a dogfight coordinator to train. As Rodriguez declares, anyone who wasn't able to sit through Amoros Perros should take heed. What comes next isn't easy to watch. The trainer's horrific tactics lines up with those documented in Out of the Pit. First, the trainer feeds Hagen sleeping pills and offers him protein injected with steroids when he awakens. Wearing a mask, the trainer beats Hagen while chained and builds his strength on a treadmill. He even sharpens his teeth when he's unconscious. Drugged up on steroids, Hagen kills his dog opponent in his first fight. According to Abel's review, these scenes bond us to Hagen's plight with unrelenting primacy. Filmed with the jagged energy of a Paul Greengrass nail-biter, they make clear that few films have ever so explicitly shown the daily threat to life for a creature left to fend for itself in a society that dismisses it as a beast designed for subjugation, abuse, and/or extermination. Having maintained some connection to his canine comrades, however, Hagen finds a way to escape this abuse. He runs away back to the vacant lot where he finds his former little dog friend. When animal control captures and cages them, however, the dog's fates there depend on their response to vicious shelter officials. When Hagen tries to attack a woman attempting to pet him, he is sentenced to death. Seemingly aware of his doom, Hagen breaks out, freeing other caged dogs and stampeding over the woman who would have killed him and his pack in a scene taken straight from the slavery vault in Stanley Kubrick's 1960 Spartacus. As Abel suggests, Hagen's breakout is also a reminder that the iconography of freedom and uprising needn't only belong to humans. Despite the horrors he experiences, Hagen still searches for Lily, leading his gang of dogs into the concert hall where she is performing with her band. When she discovers Hagen and the pack's entrance into the hall, Lily leads them away on the borrowed bicycle that opens the film. Instead of ending here, though, White God continues, showing the dogs knocking her down as they run on. Abel calls the scene dreamlike until scores of dogs careen around a corner, their bodies in full magnificent motion. With only her knees skinned, however, she gets back on her bike. Hagen makes no attempt to deliberately hurt his former companion. But Hagen does find the men who bought and tortured him, and with his canine army kills them one by one. He even kills the neighbor who reported him to animal control. Police retaliate violently throughout the city, shooting and killing dogs as they run wild throughout Budapest. Hagen continues his revenge plot, searching out and finding Lily's father's slaughterhouse workplace. Lily is there, though, and tries to bring back the pet she loves. She first tries playing their favorite game of fetch, but he bares his teeth instead. Yet when Lily starts to play her trumpet, Hagen and the remaining pack members stop barking and lie down. Lily lies down with Hagen, and her father joins her, bringing the film back to its opening Rilke quote. Made terrible by eco-traumas and horrific behaviors they have caused, Hagen and his pack need love and respect, and seem to find it with Lily and her trumpet. Many reviewers agree with the production note's argument that White God serves as a metaphor for the political and cultural tensions sweeping contemporary Europe. Anthony Lane asserts you can hardly stage an insurrection of whatever species on the street of Budapest without raising the ghost of the uprising there against Soviet rule in 1956. Rene Rodriguez suggests Director Mondrusco is up to something far grander and more ambitious than putting the viewer through the ringer. Although the allegory may seem facile, White God pulls off the difficult trick of exploring the consequences of exploiting the lower classes by using cute dogs as symbols for the oppressed and downtrodden. For these reviewers, Hagen and his pack represent oppressed humans rather than dogs suffering from real environmental trauma. For us, though, Hagen moves beyond symbol. As a companion species whose pleasure and pain align with our own, Hagen stands in only for himself, a dog who, as Donna Haraway asserts, is a full partner in worlding and becoming with. Manhola Dargis sees White God as a parable about how a faithful animal separated from its loving owner endures, suffers, struggles, and resists while trying to transcend its brutal fate. Hagen is certainly a loving dog who endures and resists, but he is also Lily's companion species. Together they are messmates at table, eating together whether we know how to eat well or not, according to Haraway. Haraway's parting assertion regarding messmates is one with a longing that it might be said of me someday what good agility players say of those whose runs they admire. She has met her dog. By both disrupting and affirming that possibility, White God reveals the consequences of eco-trauma while offering a solution to its violent repercussions, a mutual longing between species.